This is Big Leagues Country Roads Rankings. Yoo-hoo!
Thanks, Joe, as always, for welcoming on to the Joe Show. Had a blast with you last season, so we had to bring the Country Roads Rankings back here exclusively on the Joe Show. This year, we're changing it up a little bit. We're going to do our top 5 for girls and boys, and as always, ladies first, so let's get right into it, Joe. My top 5 girls basketball teams, and there's a lot of teams that are still kind of jumbled up in my top 5, from 5 to 10, I'd say. But these are my top 5 for now. At number 5, the Danville Lady Devils. You saw last night live and free their comeback victory over Mount Gilead. They are 11-3. Their losses, a very good Norwayne squad out of the WCAL. They lost by 3 to Mount Gilead. That's their lone conference loss earlier this year. And they also lost to a really good Johnstown Monroe squad, but they have been hot as of late. So they are my number 5 team, and they take on Centerburg on Friday, another team that's atop the KMAC standing. It's them, it's Cardington, and it's Centerburg, so that's a big win for them. If they can get that, maybe they'll move up my rankings. At number 4, the Crawford Lady Eagles, a team that you and I saw earlier this week with Coach. They're a really good squad, but I have them at number 4 because the number 3 team just knocked them off. Their lone loss this year is to Winford by 19 points, kind of a head scratcher, but you know as always, you have an off night, you just have to bounce back. They have a chance to go against an upper squad on Saturday that knocked off Cary, who was at the top of the standings. They won that game last night at the buzzer, so it should be a good way for them to bounce back if they can get a win. At number 3 is the Winford Lady Royals. They're 10-2. They have one more loss than Colonel Crawford, but they had that very impressive victory against the Eagles. Their losses are to Cary by 7 and the Mohawk by 7. Two good teams, as always, in a stacked Northern 10 this year on the girls' side. So they are the number 3 team. They play Buckeye Central on Saturday. I know Buckeye Central doesn't have any wins in conference, but they're a scrappy squad, and they'll play it tough, so they can't overlook them. My number 2 squad, the Pleasant Lady Spartans. Whitney Waddell, who's up for Baller of the Week. She's leading that squad. They're 12-1. Their lone loss is a really good Clear Fork squad. So they lost to them by 9, but other than that, they knocked off Shelby, a very good win for them on the road. They have a chance to continue that. They play Highland tomorrow in conference play, and everybody knows who the number 1 team should be. It is the number 4 team in all of Division 4. It is the Loudonville Lady Redbirds. Their closest win is 24 points at Clear Fork. Have you ever seen a squad that has just steamrolled teams like this in North Central Ohio, Joe?
No, not really. I mean, they have one of, maybe a Miss Basketball candidate in Cora
Absolutely.
Vermillion. She's had an outstanding career. And then the scary part is I think she has a sister that's a freshman that's averaging about
Maya.
15 a game. So they've been outstanding. But the interesting thing is I think Coach Bates has done a good job. He's really trying to challenge him because he's got a couple games coming up here that might be a little bit different than what they've been able to play in the league. So, but to be winning by 20 plus points, really can't argue with how good that team is.
Yeah, and later tonight we will have a highlight of their game at Wellington, which is going on, right about now. So, it might have been finished up right now because, they get running clocks every game. But they're looking to go 15-0. You have a highlight later tonight right here on the OH Report. But that's my top 5. Loudonville 1, Pleasant 2, Winford 3, Crawford 4, Danville 5. Anything that I messed up there?
No, I don't think you did. I mean, I think, you take a look at that Northern 10. That's going to be really competitive, especially in the second half. Crawford, a big win for Winford as they went on the road at
Young
Crawford
squad too.
And just dominated. And you're right. Their 2 key players are 2 freshmen. But the interesting thing, what I've always said I like about leagues around here is you play that round robin. Crawford's going to have another chance to get after Winford here in the second half of the year. So over the next 3 or 4 weeks, that N10 is going to be an interesting race on the girls' side.
And isn't it fun to see a kid named Sheldon dominate as a freshman at Winford for her mom with her dad watching the stands? It's pretty cool story for them. But it's good to see Winford back and playing some good ball. And the boys' side as well. And let's get right into my top 5, Joe. Number 5, some people are going to be thinking, why number 5? But the Lucas Cubs, 8-1. Their lone loss is to a Galleon squad by 20. Kind of a little bit of a head scratcher, but Galleon Division II.
But I think
Lucas up there at 4.
Logan Toms might have got hurt in that game though too.
As well. So you have
so that's a key loss. But give Galleon credit. Galleon's having a good season.
Yeah, they stuck. They only lost by 10 to Lexington,
Yes.
which was a really good game for them, even though that they lost. But another big chance for Lucas to move up my rankings. They're at Crawford on Saturday, and Crawford, they're playing really good basketball, despite some people thinking they weren't going to have a good season. I mean, come on. It's a David Sheldon coach team. He gets his guys to play physically hard, and they're one of the most physical teams.
Well,
in the state.
I think they have that slogan, winning is an attitude. And,
Yeah.
Their program really embraces that whole attitude.
Well, they would have been my number 14, but Trevor Vogt boosted them up with a buzzer beater over my number 4 team. That was Winford. What a game. We had one kid on one side hit 6 threes. We had a kid on the other side hit 6 threes. You had Trevor Vogt do his thing. It was a great game to be at. Their losses, they're at 9-2. They lost to Cary by 7 points, and then they lost to Crawford by 2 points. They go against Seneca East, a team that's right on the outside looking in my top 5. They play them on Friday in another stacked Northern 10 conference.
If you look at that Winford team, I mean, Ontario, we were in the NCC with Winford for a lot of years, and I have not seen Winford play for a while, but that team reminds me of some of the teams that we played in the NCC. They are as athletic as any team in this area. They're going to make some noise in the league in the second half, and it could be a team that is going to make a lot of noise come tournament time.
Brian and I saw them against Upper Sandusky earlier this year. They are a complete squad. But they dropped the 4 because my number 3 team is the Fighting David Sheldons, the Colonel Crawford Eagles, with that buzzer beater victory. They have another quality victory over Northmore earlier this year. They lost a tough one at Cary, and then they lost to Seneca East for the first time in 20 tries. But I mean, Seneca East they're having a really good season as it is themselves. They're 8-3. Crestview also, they lost at the buzzer at home. So those aren't bad losses for them.
I mean, and the thing with Crawford is they're not going to blow anybody out probably, but nobody's really going to blow them out. So when you play Crawford, you're going to be in a fight for 32 minutes, and that's really what they've shown here early in the season.
And they have Mohawk on Friday, and like I said, you can't take any days off in the Northern 10 as always. My number 2 team, another team in the Northern 10, a squad that has beaten Crawford and Winford the first time around, and that is the Cary Blue Devils. Their losses, Old Fort, Willard, and Bluffton. So, I mean, you can't, there's no head scratchers there. Those are really good teams they played against, but they were competitive in all 3 games.
And I think they have one of their best players that's been out that hopefully is going to get back. I think had a foot injury that's been out, but Coach Young there has done a great job. They were really good last year, return a bunch this year. So again, much similar to the girls. The N10, as you get to the second half, is going to be really, really interesting.
And they are at Upper Sandusky on Friday, and Upper, they're starting to get their feet under them as well. So you can't mark that off as a win already, because that's going to be a battle. And then my number 1 team, they've been number 1 since the beginning of last year. They haven't lost a regular season game since the beginning of last year. That's the Crestview Cougars, last year's Country Roads champions. They are still on top. They have a big one tomorrow night. You can watch it live and free on the OH Report for first place in the Firelands against another team that's just sitting on the outside looking in. That is St. Paul, 7-1. Firelands Conference, it's down this year, but there are 2 solid teams, Crestview and St. Paul. But the Cougars, they already have some big wins. They won at the buzzer at Crawford. They beat a really good Mansfield Christian team as well earlier this season. That is why they're still number 1.
Yeah, I mean, Coach Kurtz has done a great job there. And coming into the season, everybody said they were going to be good, and they really haven't fallen off at all. They've just continued to build on what they had last year, and I'm sure they're looking at number 1 to win the league, and then trying to take another step in that tournament run at the end of the season.
Any objections to any of my 5 there?
I think you're good, Travis. All right, there's no arguments here the first week of Country Roads rankings.
Joe Balogh approves. Some teams on the outside looking in. St. Paul's a chance to jump in there. Cardington Lincoln, a big win over Northmore as well. Seneca East as well. Those are teams that have a chance to maybe get into my top 5. Also, real quick, I didn't do the rankings for football. I had some other things, but congratulations to the Danville Blue Devils. They're the Country Roads rankings football champions, went undefeated, went to a regional semifinal there, so congratulations to them. We'll be back in 2 weeks for the Country Roads rankings, because next week I'll be back here with Joe for the first edition of our stat leaders. But Joe, as always, I'm happy to be back with you this year.
Always good to be back with you, Travis.